Okay, this is a redo of round 5 against puyallup as AF, in which I try not to decompose mid-round. Okay, so order is, oh wait, yeah, this is the 1AR, and order is case, climate change, civil aviation, terror, auto trade-off, fiscal cliff, and counterplan. Okay, starting off, our opponents say that we have a double bind, that either we can't solve or we're non-inherent because we've already been funded. However, they have no link that our funding is sufficient. We say our funding is not only sufficient, but their card that they're referring to is, in fact, a reauthorization of the bill for FAA funding of Next Gen, which is clearly not sufficient. And they're reducing this to a simplistic binary. There's not enough funding, and we can't solve because of this funding, and that's the only reason why we need more funding in order to be able to solve Next Gen. Okay, solvency. They read cards saying that there's no coordination, we don't serve for management. However, these are all from 2008. Our evidence postdates theirs. It's our Salam 12 cards. Our Salam 12 cards say specific things about how Next Gen will decrease inefficiencies in the current flight system. For example, federal investment in Next Gen infrastructure will entice operators to equip their planes for Next Gen. So so the operators of the planes themselves are going to be equipping these systems, not the central agency. The central agency is only key to funding and administering this program. And operators won't invest until the FAA fully funds Next Gen. Basically, funding from the FAA is necessary for operators to even begin funding Next Gen, which is why we need funding, not necessarily, which means that their cards are irrelevant. Okay, on to climate change. They say that airplanes are going to increase pollution. However, we haven't actually offered an incentive for people to ride more planes. This is non-unique because we're simply cutting down on existing inefficiencies, not having more planes flying, which means that this is going to directly reduce fuel rates, fuel costs, and time spent in the air in delays above airplanes because of inefficient routing systems. So Next Gen is something that's going to reduce pollution rather than increase it. On to civil aviation, they read that the airline is resilient and that we can't solve for sequestration. Firstly, the airline may be resilient. They call the airline resilient if it hasn't fallen yet. However, it still exists, but they said that the airline is resilient simply because it hasn't fallen yet. However, it's being held down by a variety of things like fuel costs and delays that are keeping it much lower than what it could actually potentially become as an industry. And so our extend our Royal 10 card, which says that what causes nuclear war is expectation of trade. So if we have a low economy, we're more likely to be thrown into this nuclear war anyway. We don't need a fallen economy in order to experience that sort of impact, which is why we have to save airline industries right now. Onto terror. Firstly, not only does he use a card from China daily, which we prove should already be unreliable evidence from for relations with Syria and the U.S., but they also say that Next Gen itself causes more deaths, and that terrorism itself, being perceived as a threat, causes more deaths. However, in light of events like 9/11, it's clear that we need to take precautions. Not that we need to cause deaths as the assert, but rather that we need security in airplanes and on-board airlines. So if there's any chance that our plan can provide any sort of security against or deterrent against such an attack, then that's why we need to implement it. Okay, under their auto trade-off, they have no link to our auto trade-off. We already proved that carb dominance is unsustainable. Extend our Schiffer's card, and the industry is in decline now. Also Schiffer's. Also extend our Ratner 09 card, saying that the collapse of the auto industry starting in late 2008 and early 2009 had exhausted their liquidity. Every strapped pirate couple was fed at the sidelines. This is saying that the airline industry is already in decline, so any impacts that they say will happen from the decline of the auto industry should already have been happening. However, right now, the airline industry is what we need to be focusing on. So obviously, there's if there even is a trade-off between airplanes and cars, this is not going to affect the economy in the long run. Yeah, another fiscal cliff. They read cards saying that the Middle East will wage nuclear war on us because we'll lose hegemony. However, we need to avoid nuclear war at all costs. Cross-apply Hellman. So we know 1 billion over 20 years is simply a drop in the bucket. If we concede uniqueness to the fiscal cliff, then our plan already accounts for the fiscal cliff. The FAA budget is a prerequisite to the DA. This means the AF is a link turn to that's Tucson forward. So the collapse of civil aviation will kill F-35 funding, but NextGen solves the industry. That's Tate and Lowy. And FAA can no longer expand runways or products, so aircrafts no longer become efficient. So double blind. Either A, there's a link because we are funded through a different budget, or we solve the terminal impact because we rescue the industry, guaranteeing F-35 funding. And this plan is necessary to power the economy through the fiscal cliff. And so even if so we've already accounted for that, and we need to keep the economy strong rather than keeping it held down by increasing pressures of delays and costs, which is why NextGen needs to be implemented. And finally, in response to Ferris Sulfate, extend the card, extend our Alsop and Schneider cards, saying that not only will ferrous sulfate be a flawed science and impossible to carry out, it'll also be perceived as a weapon, which will lead to war. So ferrous sulfate, not only does it lack solvency, it'll also cause the very impact that our opponents are trying to avoid. And so the only conclusion we have from this, that we can get from this, is that NextGen is the only way forward in light of impending sequestration that can save our economy and maintain hegemony in the U.S.